What started as a solo project developed into a full-fledged game. Hello everybody, this is Devader, a twin-stick shooter made by, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Falcon Brew? Either way, the dev supplied me with a free review copy of this game, and links in the description down below to where you can check it out. So, yeah, I'm going into this completely blind, first impressions. All I know is that it's a twin-stick shooter, and it has quite a few features from what I could gather. There's just like a lot of things that can be unlocked, different difficulties, surprise mechanics, and I love that they pointed out on the Steam page, not the EA kind. And yeah, some pretty extensive settings, truth be told. You know, I mean, obviously you got the basic stuff with, you know, gameplay, screen settings, blah, blah, blah. But there's some pretty cool visual settings here, you know, just in case things are a little too much for you. You can tone down on certain things here, like screen shake, all that good stuff. There was a sensitivity warning at the beginning of this, so I guess it is cool to have those settings for people that might just be a little photosensitive. And then there are accessibility options as well. You can increase or decrease the speed of the game, just make things a little easier to see, parse out. So yeah, really cool stuff there. Anyway, we're just going to head straight into new game. Okay, so we got easy. Game is slow with few enemies, bosses are smaller, less menacing, no special upgrades, and no starting skill. Normal. Now we're talking. This is how Devader is meant to be played. More enemies and tougher bosses. Need to earn a win here. Hard. Let's get personal. You're an insanely good player and need the challenge. I made the game and have not managed to beat Devader on this level. I hope you don't either. That does not instill good feelings. And deity, you can't win. Don't even try. This mode should not be in the game, but it is. At least they're honest. We're going to go with normal here. We'll stick with red. Why not? Approaching planet Niberlite. So yeah, I don't claim to be the best at twin-stick shooters, but I mean, I do play a lot of Nuclear Throne, though that's not... I mean, I don't really play that with the controller. I play that with mouse and keyboard. Probably should be doing the same here. Oh well. And I quickly learned that this is one game where I can't really do live commentary because it just required a lot of concentration. So, yeah, this game, it's, honestly, I would kind of consider it a tower defense with twin-stick shooter / tower defense, because you're trying to protect your matrix in the middle of the map from getting destroyed. Didn't really do a good job of that myself in this first little, I can't really call it wave, like, because you go through a certain amount of waves before the boss shows up. But alright, during this first segment, I wasn't really doing a good job of protecting it. There is just a lot to keep up with. Not to mention, for the first few seconds, I was under the assumption that what turned out to be my helpers were actually trying to kill me. I wish the game was a little more clear on that when I started, but yeah, I was just busy trying to shoot my help. It's like, oh wait, they're the same color as me. They're friendly, but whatevs. So, yeah, the game controls really well. It's nice and responsive, though, I don't know, I have to really go back into the settings to play around with them, but man, that right analog stick sensitivity was... It was a bit rough at times. Not so much when you're trying to just normally aim and shoot, that's fine, but there are moments later on where you're going to need some more precise movements with the right analog stick, and that's where some issues came into play. Nothing game-breaking, but I don't know, because later on, we're going to be getting nukes, which serves as bombs. You know, if you play shmups, bombs will clear the immediate area of any bullets around you, and deal damage to enemies and bosses and whatnot. You don't have a finite amount of them in this game, which is really good. You just have a timer, so you can't just be spamming them non-stop. But you aim with the right analog stick where you want to place, or, well, shoot the nuke. But with the AoE of the nuke, you don't really have to be too precise with that. But later on, I also get the ability to lay turrets, which will just, take care of some enemies off in one area while I'm busy working in another area. And that gets kind of rough too, because with those, you might want to be a little more precise. And there were a few moments where I just had to stop moving because I had to really focus on lightly moving the analog stick to where I wanted to place the turret. But aside from that, everything else is pretty fine. There is a really good amount of enemy variety at work here. I really liked some of the enemies that were showing up. Was not expecting evil fidget spinners at one point. Yes, that did happen. The first boss, to be exact. I'm kind of recording this post commentary without watching the actual video, so forgive me for kind of spoiling that. Yeah, there's a bunch of other cool enemies that show up, and yeah, there's some variety there. Enemy HP, though, is, I don't know, some enemies feel like they have a little too much, but I don't know how much of that was me missing my shots and how much of that was just them having a lot of HP. Oh, wait, going back to the whole right stick sensitivity thing, I also forgot that this game can be played with keyboard and mouse. And I'm pretty sure with a mouse you can actually have way more precise movement, but then you also run into the problem that can happen sometimes when playing a twin stick shooter with keyboard and mouse, where I don't know, you just need a lot of room to really move your mouse to accommodate for moving around your character's axis point. So it's, I don't know, there's pros and cons to keyboard and mouse and controller when playing these types of games, so it's usually just a matter of personal preference. Though I do find it hilarious that I cannot play Nuclear Throne with keyboard and mouse, or rather with controller. I only ever play that with keyboard and mouse, whereas with this game, I don't see how I could ever play it without a controller. Now, well, it's just me being weird, I guess. Yeah, back to the game itself. It runs really well. It shoots for 60 frames per second. It does go lower at times, but I didn't ever notice it go under 30. Thank you, Bandicam, for having a frame counter. But yeah, it never really went under 30. Well, aside from when new waves would show up, but that might have also had something to do with the fact that, I have so many things going on at once when I'm recording this, so yeah. I won't hold that against the game. But yeah, it does have a little unclocked frame rate thing, or unlocked frame rate thing to keep the action smooth, and yeah, it's really serviceable. It's really good. And the specs are low enough where this can be played on older computers too. I did notice that in the options for the quality, at least, if you can lower it to low and medium, it not only affects the visual fidelity and the textures and whatnot, but it'll actually lower the amount of enemies that will show up on screen, which is something new that I've never really encountered too much in games, although that can end up affecting the difficulty, and the options sort of tell you that as much by saying that by playing on low or medium it can affect your score, or not even record it. I kind of forgot exactly what it said, but yeah. But at the end of the day, that's not really the worst thing in the world, unless you're adamant on getting the best score possible. But seriously though, that is surprisingly cool for the game to acknowledge that, like, yeah, when there's multiple things on the screen, even if you lower like the textures and whatnot, stuff can still slow down and people who might need lower quality will still run into trouble. So we'll also just tone back the number of enemies on screen. That's cool. Regarding the difficulty itself, it's pretty decent enough, I'd say, on normal. Curious to see what hard is, but I mean, if the dev himself said that he couldn't beat it on hard, that's a little daunting. Only a little. This makes me wonder, like, how are you able to playtest that then? I don't know. The game did have a pretty extensive early access period from what I could tell, and the demo is live, so I'm sure there were some people out there that were able to beat it and give their feedback. Yeah, normal seems about just right for me. I did game over earlier than I would have liked, but that could also be attributed to the fact that it's my first time playing. I'm still getting accustomed to everything. It's a learning process. Not to mention, I don't quite know what power-ups or what upgrade paths to go for when playing. Because, yeah, that is one thing. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm all over the place here. I apologize. But, yeah, in case you couldn't tell, after every boss, you get to choose a new weapon type to go with. And you get some skill points to allocate to different things, like maybe lowering the timer on the nukes by 1 second, or getting an extra life, or raising your defense, raising your weapons attack strength, etc., etc. And apparently there are special upgrade paths too that are tailor-made for the different playstyle you might have to utilize for that particular weapon type. So a lot of thought and effort went into this game, and that's nice. The bosses are really cool, and I'm anxious to see what some of the later bosses are going to be. Though they are definitely a lot harder than the normal waves. I mean, I would hope a boss would be difficult enough to test what you've learned up to that point, but I don't know. I wasn't really feeling the second boss I encountered. The first and third, I was just getting like a little sloppy in those fights. Those weren't all that difficult. But the second one, I don't know, there were quite a few times where I was just like, how do I avoid taking damage here? I legitimately don't see a way out of this without taking damage. Thankfully, that boss didn't seem to do a lot of damage with the attacks that seemed unavoidable, but it was still a bit rough. And of course, there are other things at work there to make your life easier as you play. I already mentioned the turrets that can provide cover fire and the nukes that you can use if things are getting a little too hairy for you. There's also supply drops, which is a really cool feature. It's literally just a supply drop. You can choose where it falls down and you press the button that's assigned to it. When the supply drop lands, you get like 4 or so different power-ups just to make your life easier. The hard part, for me at least, can't really speak for anyone else, but was remembering I even had these tools at my disposal up until it was a little too late for them to even serve much of a purpose to help me out. Guess that's why you just gotta stay calm when playing shmups or twin stick shooters of this intensity and whatnot. So, all in all, my closing thoughts with this first look at the game, it's worth checking out. It looks really good. I mean, I'm a sucker for 2D sprites in a 3D environment. That is so much my thing. And it plays really well. Aside from some sensitivity issues, which I think I can just adjust in the settings, I didn't really have too much of a problem controlling anything in the game. Not once did the frame rate dip to unbearably low levels during the action. And there's just a bunch of different weapons and tools at your disposal to guide you to success. There is a free demo available for the game on Steam. Highly recommend checking it out if you're on the fence about it. And I would say this is worthwhile for people who just really like shmups. I'm definitely going to play more of this on my own because I want to see what some of the later bosses look like. And I'm curious to see the endings. The Steam page says that there's 19 endings, and admittedly I wasn't really paying too much attention to the story. I mean, yeah, it is the typical evil alien race is wiping out humanity and you're the last hope for everyone, so you gotta just fight them off. But the whole 19 endings thing, that has me curious. I don't quite know how deep this game is going to get with its lore and whatnot, but yeah, there's some intrigue there. But at the end of the day, this is a style of game where you're really going to focus more on the action. And it honestly doesn't really need a story, but it is what it is. So definitely add this to the list of good games developed by one person, and give it a shot yourself if you're interested. Oh, and one final thing that I really did like, the fact that it saves your continue for another time, like when you game over, because yeah, I game overed ultimately, and yeah, I had to continue, but I didn't really feel like using it at this time, so I just quit to the main menu. But at the main menu, I saw that I can actually use that continue right then and there and not have to start back from the very beginning. And yeah, I know there are plenty of games that like autosave right before a boss, so it's like, oh hey, you died at this boss, you want to continue from that point, and then yeah, you can. But you don't see this too much in games that sort of follow a arcade style. You know, that would be like dying on Wily 1 in Mega Man, then turning the game off, but then when you return to it, you're able to start back from that point as opposed to choosing the 6 robot masters. And yeah, I mean, I have encountered like arcade games where you can continue from that point right then and there. I mean, obviously every fighting game does it. But to actually have it on the main menu for when you return to the game, can't say I've encountered too much of that in arcade games, at least. So yeah, just another really cool thing. The dev, he's on your side and he wants you to enjoy the game. He's not your enemy, he's your friend. Thanks once again to Falcon Brew for the review copy of this game. Link to where you can grab it for yourself in the description down below. Highly recommend checking it out. And enjoy the rest of my first attempted run through this game. Though, please forgive me for my performance in later parts. Admittedly, the boss I died on, I mean, it wasn't all that hard. I was just very, very sloppy for no reason. Kind of embarrassed about that one. Second boss, not so much. He was tough, like with some of those attacks, but third boss, yeah, I had no right to lose to it. But yeah, Postcom Cap out. Enjoy the rest of this here video. Goodbye.